What's up guys, shinyhunterzach here, back with a match I played on the Pokemon trading card game online, and this one's going to feature a Virizion Genesect deck. Now this deck was built for the new upcoming format, which is Boundaries Crossed On. So any set that's released until they create a new format in about a year is going to be included in this format, but for now it's just Boundaries Crossed to Furious Fists. So this one is going to feature two main Pokemon, Virizion EX and Genesect EX, that have been around since the introduction of the set Plasma Blast. Now Virizion EX is a 170 HP Grass-type EX Pokemon with the ability Verdant Wind, that says each of your Pokemon that has any grass energy attached to it can't be affected by any special conditions. So cards like Hypnotoxic Laser, any Pokemon attacks that have special conditions as a secondary effect, those are not going to work with any Pokemon on your side of the field that has a grass energy attached to it. Its attack, Emerald Slash, does 50 for 2 energy, and you can search your deck for 2 grass energy and attach them to one of your benched Pokemon. So that is going to be our energy acceleration for the deck, and our main attacker for the deck is going to be Genesect EX. Now, it also has an ability called Red Signal. When you attach a plasma energy from your hand to this Pokemon, you may switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with his or her active. So basically, it works like a Lysander or a Pokemon catcher without the flip when you just attach a plasma energy to it. And then its attack, Megalo Cannon, does 100 for 3 energy and 20 to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So that's not a bad attack. It'll two-shot pretty much anything, and that's alright. But if you want to make this deck even better, you include this Ace-Spec trainer called G-Booster. It's an item that you attach to Genesect EX that gives it an extra attack called G-Booster. And it does 200 damage for just 3 energy, and you discard 2 energy attached to this Pokemon. It also says this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on the defending Pokemon. So it goes through things like abilities, like Pyroar's ability, Intimidating Mane, and Buffont's ability from Dragon's Exalted Boofer. It goes through all of that. It also goes through cards like Eviolite. So this is pretty huge. This is the main reason this deck is so played, is because with G-Booster you can knock out pretty much anything in one hit. So it says there's only 50, or it looks like there's only 50 cards in this deck, but there's really 60. It doesn't show that I run 10 grass energy, but we're going to go through the deck here despite that. Just remember that there are 10 grass energy in this deck as well. Our other attacker is going to be Beartic. Now, Virizion Genesect decks have always had to run some kind of secondary attacker to get around some of the main decks in the format. Before, they mainly used Raichu to counter Yveltal EX. It also countered Lugia EX because both of them are weak to lightning. And with Raichu, it had free retreat. Its first attack was for 2 colorless energy, and if you had enough benched Pokemon in play, then you could knock out an Yveltal or a Raichu in one hit. But this time around, we have more intimidating stuff like Pyroar and Landorus EX, both of which are weak to water. So we are going to try out a card that just came out in Furious Fist that's a rare called Beartic. Now Beartic is 130 HP Stage 1 Pokemon. It is a water type, as I said. It is a huge retreat cost of 4, but it has an attack called Igloo Hold. This one also costs just 2 colorless energy, and it does 20 plus 20 more damage for each colorless in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. So for Landorus EX, Landorus has a retreat cost of 3. So that is going to be doing 20 plus 60 more for 80. And then if you attach a Muscle Band to Beartic, that knocks out Landorus in one hit. Also for Pyroar, Pyroar has a retreat cost of 2. So you use Igloo Hold, that does 20 plus 40 more for the retreat cost of Pyroar, times 2 for weakness, that is 120 damage, and that will knock out Pyroar because it has 110 HP. So that is going to be our other main attacker in this deck. It's also fairly bulky with 130 HP, so it can hang on while you set up other attackers if you need to. And then the other Pokemon in this deck is going to be Jirachi. Now Jirachi you don't ever really want to attack with, and we don't even run any kind of metal energy. This Pokemon is used for its ability Stellar Guidance. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, and then you can shuffle your deck afterward. So basically this allows you to use cards like Ultra Ball, because Level Ball rotated out with Next Destinies, to get Jirachi, and then you have a supporter. if you are going through a supporter drought or just want a different supporter that's in your deck. So those are the Pokemon, and then the energy I already basically went over. It's 10 grass and 4 of these plasma energies, so we can use Genesect's ability. Now for the trainers. For our supporter line, we're going to have 4 Juniper. That's pretty standard. You're going to want 4 of those in just about every deck. 4 N. Each player shuffles his or her hand into her deck, then each player draws a card for each of his or her remaining prize cards. So that can be good early or late if your opponent's in the lead. We're going to run 1 Colress, which says shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw a number of cards equal to the number of bench Pokemon in play. So that can get you up to 10 cards. And then 2 of these Shadow Triad. Put a Team Plasma card from your discard pile into your hand. So this will work on the Plasma Energy. It'll also work on a couple of the cards we're going to get into in a second, like Team Plasma Ball. We run 1 of those because Genesect is a Team Plasma Pokemon, and if we can avoid discarding stuff with Ultra Ball in most situations, that is best. Our other supporter is going to be Skyla. We're going to run 4 of these, and it allows us to search our deck for a trainer card, so that can be an item, a supporter, or a stadium, reveal it, and put it into our hand. So that is going to help us get stuff like G-Booster, Muscle Band, which we run 3 of. The attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So that's a very handy card. We're also going to run 3 Energy Switch. This recently got reprinted in Furious Fists. Move a basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another. We have 4 Ultra Ball here, and then 1 Team Plasma Ball, so that's going to be our way to search out Pokemon. 2 Switch, because Sky Arrow Bridge, which is the stadium we would normally run, is now out of the format. So we need ways to get our Pokemon out of the active without getting rid of a bunch of energy. So we also have Professor's Letter to help us search for 2 basic energy cards in our deck, just 1 of those. We also have 1 Startling Megaphone. This is going to discard all Pokemon Tool cards attached to each of your opponent's Pokemon. And then we have, for our stadium, 2 Plasma Frigate. Now I'm just testing this, so I'm not sure if I would actually run this, but it has an interesting effect. Each Pokemon that has any Plasma Energy attached to it, both yours and your opponent's, has no weakness. So if you attach a Plasma to Virizion or Genesect, it is no longer weak to fire. So cards like Pyroar and Victini EX and Flareon can't take advantage of it as much. So other than that, we do run 1 Energy Retrieval. Super Rod also went out of the format, so this is our way of putting Grass Energy back into the deck. But that about does it for the deck analysis part. Let's go ahead and get into this matchup. This is going to be against a round deck. Now, the primary objective of the deck round is to get as many Pokemon into play with the attack name round as possible. There are 3 Pokemon that have that attack name in this deck: Meloetta EX, Palpitoad, and Seismitoad. Now, Palpitoad and Seismitoad can use the attack for a double colorless. Meloetta can use it for 3 psychic. So Seismitoad is really going to be your main attacker in that deck. My opponent doesn't have any basics. I have 2. But they're not my ideal attackers. Jirachi I'm not even going to play down, because its ability only works when you play it from your hand. And Beartic is just a 70 HP basic that really only works in certain situations. So my primary objective is going to be getting a Virizion out turn 1. My opponent starts out with a Meloetta EX in the active and 2 Tympole on the bench. That's a decent start for him. But I am going to use an Ultra Ball and get rid of a Plasma Frigate because I don't think my opponent is running any fire types, as well as an Energy Switch, and get a Virizion EX into my hand, because getting that onto the field and putting a Grass Energy on it is really the most important thing for a Virizion Genesect turn 1. Now I also have a Skyla in my hand. I'm going to use that to probably check what's in my deck, hope my G-Booster is in there for my Genesect, which it appears to be right there. And I'm also going to get a Switch, because I don't want my Cubchoo taking unnecessary damage. I'm probably not going to use it all that much this match anyway, so I'm going to take the Switch, move my Virizion EX into the active, and hopefully avoid my opponent taking an early prize. So that is going to end my turn. My opponent now is probably going to look over their hand and see if they can make any interesting plays. I believe they do make a couple here. Their first one is going to be using Rare Candy to evolve Tympole into Seismitoad. Here's what Seismitoad looks like. It's 140 HP at stage 2 with round, and then there's the Meloetta EX. I'm going to get End to 6, which is pretty good for me. I don't have to use a supporter of my own, and I do get a Grass Energy there, so I can definitely use Emerald Slash next turn. My opponent is going to get a Level Ball here, and they're going to grab another Tympole after evolving their second Tympole into Palpitoad. And so that means they have 3 Pokemon in play currently with Round. Now, it looks like they are going to sacrifice their Tympole. It is weak to grass, so it's definitely going to go down. But it's an interesting play. Meloetta EX does give up 2 prizes, but I wouldn't be able to knock it out with Virizion anyway. So I guess they just don't want their Meloetta taking any damage this turn. I'm going to end here after putting a Grass Energy and a Muscle Band onto my Virizion. But unfortunately, I don't get a Genesect or a way to find one off of that N. So that is really bad for me. I am going to be able to take a prize off this Tympole, but I don't want to put any of this Grass Energy onto the Cubchoo. The Cubchoo's not going to be doing much considering nothing on his field or in his deck is weak to water. So I'm just going to save my 6 Grass Energy in my deck and just take my prize. So I do have 4 energy in my hand. That's quite a lot, as well as a G-Booster. If I can get Genesect, I will probably be set. My opponent plays down not only a Seismitoad, but I think coming up here they're going to get another Meloetta EX, so that is going to be 5 Pokemon on their field with the attack rounds. So 30 times 5 is 150, which is going to be reduced by 20 because Virizion EX is resistant to water. So with that DCE going down on the Seismitoad, my opponent is going to be able to hit me for 130 damage, bringing me within 40 HP of being knocked out. So I am in a tricky situation here. I can definitely knock out that Seismitoad with my Virizion thanks to the Muscle Band, but next turn, if he gets a DCE onto that other Seismitoad, my Virizion is knocked out and I'm left with just a Cubchoo. I need to find a way to get a Genesect out, and my only way of doing that is by using the Professor Juniper in my hand. Unfortunately, that means getting rid of 4 energy and my G-Booster, but the alternative is losing, so I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I do thankfully get a Genesect off of that Juniper as well as a Grass Energy, so no matter what, at the end of this turn, my Genesect is going to have 3 Grass Energy on it, and it will be ready to go for a Megalo Cannon, or if I can get that G-Booster out of my discard pile, a G-Booster. That seems like a bit of an overkill on the Seismitoad considering they're weak to grass, so I may not even need it. I'm going to use that Ultra Ball to get another Virizion since this one in the active is most likely going to go down next turn. I'm going to attach that Grass Energy and hit the Seismitoad for a perfect 140 damage, just knocking it out, and get those 2 Grass Energy on and get a prize into my hand. So I have taken a 2-prize lead on this round deck, and now my opponent is bringing up the Seismitoad. That does tell me they do probably have the DCE, and we see it go down there. My opponent makes a strange play here. They're going to use a Level Ball, and then they're going to play an N, so they're going to shuffle the Palpitoad they just got right back into their deck, which is kind of an interesting play. Maybe they were just trying to get rid of cards. Maybe they didn't want to draw that, but I'm not sure why. They really need a Tympole to keep the pressure on me. But they're going to use their 3rd Random Receiver and get a Colress off of it. Not many decks run 3 Random Receiver based on my experience. Right now they have 4 Pokemon in play with Round, so that is going to be 120 minus 20 is 100 damage, perfectly knocking out my Virizion with, it's a bit of overkill actually. They are first going to use a computer search to get another card here. I don't get to see what it is until my opponent plays it, because that's the way computer search works. But it turns out to be, I believe, a Super Rod. Either a Super Rod or a Tympole. They use a Super Rod there. They shuffle in a Psychic Energy, a Seismitoad, and a Tympole into their deck. And now they're going to take 2 prizes, and we are now tied. Thankfully, however, I do have the offensive momentum here. My Genesect is already ready to knock out that Seismitoad. I get a Grass Energy down on the Virizion, meaning I can Emerald Slash next turn if I need to. I also have a Skyla here. I can either use that to get a draw supporter to make sure I have a new hand next turn, or I can get my Energy Retrieval, get 2 of the Grass Energy from my discard pile back into my hand, since I did discard a lot early on, 4 to be exact, and now I am perfectly set up with energy even without a draw supporter. So this will easily knock out that Seismitoad EX. I'm going to put down another Virizion EX just in case, and I will be able to take my 3rd prize of the game. My opponent is now in a tough situation. They don't have a way to attack this turn because Round on Meloetta EX takes 3 Psychics. They can use Brilliant Voice, which does 20 for a double colorless, and you can flip for Confusion. But I don't think that'll work on Genesect since Virizion's ability prevents all special conditions on Genesect, so unless they can magically get a Seismitoad this turn, which they can't, they will be able to get a Temple, I believe, but they are not going to be able to knock out this Genesect, and I can either get out that Temple into the active with a Plasma, or I could get some good damage on this Meloetta. But, as it turns out, my opponent concedes the game. I do get the win here, and I get an extra prize off this prize wheel. But that is going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Like and favorite the video and leave a comment below. And until next time, I will see you guys later.